She put a pot on she hair and gone. Them a the first one out on the dam. Basket on she head, bucket in each hand. Hold up on she frack, I wanna she grandson. To the market, them a go. For the morning, the day is dawning. For cockacrow to give the villagers a warning. Rise and shine, the birds them a sing. All animal take turn as them join in the waking. Cockacrow, dagaba, donkey bray, horse and they even duck a quack. Cockacrow, dagaba, donkey bray, horse and they even duck a quack. Come and hear this sweet story that tell the people about life in the country. All day a back down, me now a come home. Inaga, jackass yard to fetch the load. Cockle shy hand, bag over shoulder, running by his side, a Rexy and Rover. From the farm, them a come.
Running by his side with Rexy and Rover. Rexy and Rover running by his side. Mr. President, how are you doing? Gosh, it's been a roller coaster kind of 2024. I can just imagine how the ordinary man, woman on the ground are feeling, because 2024 has been a year that lots of turbulence, economically speaking. And sometimes my heart goes out and I wonder how the ordinary man, woman, whether in Blackbush Polo, whether in Linden, whether Wisma, whether Letem, whether Ituni, Kokwani, right in Georgetown, Sophia, Tiger Bay, Bartica, Belladrum, Weldad, Petrovacting, all over. I just wonder how they're feeling. Good
Well,
night, sir. How are you?
good night, and thank you for having me on this program. I don't know why you're wondering. I think you have a good idea that a lot of the people in Guyana are not doing so well, despite Guyana becoming a petroleum state. You know, it is. Then you describe the activities of 2024 as being, indicative of a roller coaster excursion, but for a country that's a petroleum state, we don't have to go through, especially our people, the poor people, the common people, the common folk in this country don't have to go through some of the privations that are being witnessed on a daily basis. And it is quite clear that the present administration is preparing for general elections. So some of the measures are short term. They don't look towards human development. They do things which are, I suppose, attractive. They build roads where roads don't need to be built. For example, roads need to be built in Region 8 and Region 9, but those places are out of sight. Region 8 doesn't have roads. People always speak about a safari from east to west. Every year there's a safari in Region 8 because there are no proper roads. There's a sort of expedition in Region 9. But instead of building and rebuilding and Conversation Street Road or Cemetery Road, these are important. But it's very important to get a road, proper highway between Anai and at Wishabai or in Region 8, between in the areas of the Pacaraimas, among the Patamonan people. These are important. It's important to get our soldiers, to get to the hinterland safely. The other day, you saw a truck falling into the Essequibo, So you can see that money is being spent, but spent for what? What's the point building a bridge to Paramaribo when you can't build a bridge across the Essequibo? So it's been a roller coaster year, but people, I think the administration is focusing on the elections, and they want to do things which will attract votes in the election. They're not doing things to develop the country, and they're certainly not doing things to develop the people. Everybody knows that this cash grant, by the time the new year dawns, that cash grant will be gone. and the school children will be in the same situation. With the families
You
and
mean,
mothers will be in the same situation.
when
So,
you say the cash grant gone, the 100,000 done, it's no generational wealth there at all. According to
no,
some folks, it's
it,
generational wealth to being
it's the
given there.
Santa syndrome. It's the Santa syndrome. It's not meant to develop anything. It's just meant to ensure the election, in GRE 2025.
You know,
So
like
it's a game.
I said to some folks that back in my days, the 50 cents there, you're seeing two bob, a bob, 5 cents and so forth had lots and lots of value. You could have run in the store and get a set of sweetie, get a set of corn corals and all sort of things. I'm not sure by the time you go in the market with 100,000, it's done. It's done. But yet folks want to talk about generational wealth with 470 or just about 470 US dollars generational wealth. What a roller coaster year 2024 it was indeed. President Granger, tonight we want to talk about this. We want to talk about the quality of life, actually. And of course, the public interest in Anansi Web Education. We've been dealing with these topics, lots of important topics over uh, the 2024 as well. We have dealt with a lot of issues. And for 2025, we start off with the quality of life has been, Anansi Web Education has been aroused by the deterioration in citizens' quality of life, regardless of how we twist it, we turn it, measured by their satisfaction with their lives in terms of their personal experiences and expectations to live in a safe environment. People are concerned about that, living in a safe environment. Anansi Web Education, our program tonight, we examine the topic, the quality of life, with the aim of addressing the following questions. And we'll start off with question number one. What have been the causes of a low quality of life in Guyana, in the country? Low quality of life.
This is a good start because 5 years ago we declared Guyana to be a petroleum state. And the PPP administration has withdrawn about nearly $330 billion from the Natural Resource Fund. So you would expect that with such a massive withdrawal of petroleum profits, although there are lots of complaints that, we're not making as much as we should make. But that is enough to have started a transformation in the quality of life. So what have been the causes? The cause basically is the PPP is not focused on people, it's focused on projects. It's not focused on the improvement of the life of the common folk. It's focused on improving the political campaign for general and regional elections. So many of the projects, do not satisfy day-to-day human needs, and they don't even satisfy the long-term needs for human development, such as education, such as employment, the improvement of the environment. They are really satisfying the needs of contractors, and in terms of development needs, yes, we need infrastructure, but I think that we're sort of missing the point here about spending. We're not spending money just to make a few contractors happy. We're spending money to develop the people. We develop the things which people need. For example, getting children to school, improving the healthcare systems, improving the public health system. There's still problems with things like vector-borne diseases, malaria, filaria. There's still problems with poverty, homelessness, destitution. These are not marks of a high quality of life. When Guyana is behind half of the CARICOM states, behind St. Kitts, behind Trinidad, behind Jamaica, Belize, behind Barbados, Bahamas, when Guyana is bringing 95th, it is not much to boast about. And every day you listen to the PVP spokesperson, they're boasting about something or the other, but the fact is we're still 95th in the country. and the imposition of harsh measures in some of the villages like Mocha, Arcadia, the way the two of the largest unions in the country, the Public Service Union and Teacher Union, are being treated, you know, uh, it indicates that life is very difficult, and you can see the causes why Guyanese don't enjoy a good quality of life, and why many Guyanese are not happy, and why many of them are leaving the country. Because the money is there, but the spending priorities are misplaced. And people are not happier because of it, because of the policies that are being pursued by the government. So there's no question of the fact that we still, as a petroleum state, enjoy a very low quality of life. And you can look at the streets of all of the towns, not just Georgetown. Go to New Amsterdam, go to Bartica, go to some of the new areas like Kumaka and Burima Waini, and you see, the destitution. We've also got a big problem with migrants. 30 or 40,000 migrants. The Venezuelan ambassador is congratulating the Guyana government on its generosity, but our own people are still on the streets. Some of them are out of school. There are a lot of gangs in the schools, and it is difficult to say what are the causes, except to repeat the fact that the Guyana government's priorities are misplaced, and they're putting projects and the notions of one person ahead of the necessities of life for the many. This is a government of the few. It's not a government for the many.
We can't go wrong with that. Government of the few, of a few, not a government of many at all. The evidence is there. They believe in these shabby projects for political purpose during an elections year, and then not seeing any progress. Shabby projects with very little progress for the country. Our second question tonight, President Granger, and as we welcome all of our listeners, wherever you are, good night. I hope you have started in preparation for the new year. It's going to be prosperous, but you've got to work. You've got to work. The Bible says there are other religious books, but specifically the Bible says faith without work. Faith without work. You've got to work for 2025. You've got to work, guys. Second question, because I'm going to get off with quoting the Bible. I notice you smiling there, Mr. Grimm. It says, the next question, sorry. When did the low quality of life become a matter of public concern? When?
But there has always been poverty in Guyana, and I'm glad to see you put on your pastoral robes and quote the Bible. But even from biblical times, we know what was said about the poor always being with us. But the quality of life is defined as a perception. So people are prepared to live ordinary lives with enough. But it became a problem when you make a comparison, when people feel they can do better, when people feel that they're being treated unfairly by the government, when people feel that access to some of the public services had been blocked, when students start running away from the country after they graduate from university, when they cannot get food cheaply, food that they're accustomed to, like sweet potatoes and plantains and cassavas, and cheap fish and so on. And when people perceive that they cannot cope with the cost of living, that is when they start to feel that the quality of life is deteriorating. There was a time when the average graduate from University of Guyana was prepared to go to work with the government or set up some enterprise. But what is happening now is that they prefer to go to the Bahamas or Barbados or Belize or Botswana or somewhere else. So it started to happen when the perception was changed that that they are not doing, they're not living as comfortably as they should, they're not as happy as they should be after the effort that's been put in. They want a better life, and they feel that the present administration is not delivering that better life. So the perception, I think, became more pronounced, even though people might have grown up in pretty modest circumstances, their homes and the school and so on. They feel now that things are not getting better, that the traffic situation, the crime situation, the health situation are more perilous, and that they are not enjoying the quality of life that they feel they should be enjoying. It is a perception that things are not getting better, and they know that the money is there. When you talk about $330 billion being withdrawn from the natural resources fund, they can't see how it helped their lives. They know that there are more roundabouts. They know that that there are more buildings, Heroes Highway, and there's some improved infrastructure. But what they do know also that the quality of their own life has not improved. So I would say over the last 50 months, the perception that the government was not on their side, the treatment of villagers, the treatment of the poor, they can see that nothing is really done. There's been lots of superficial short-term moves, hampers, and now you see cash grants, but they feel that the quality of life, especially for young people, young graduates, young persons coming out of university or high school, they feel that this is not the place that they want to spend their lives, living in. This is not the country that they want to spend the rest of their lives in. So it's a perception. And I think, if you know how the teachers feel, oh, yes, they've signed the agreement, but they're not a happy people. If you know how the nurses feel, yes, they've signed agreement, but they just feel that they've been conned, fooled, misled. And it's not a good place to be.
Certainly not a good place to be. The quality of life and the fact that it has gone down the drain, the D word, deterioration, gone down the drain, completely down. And for 2025, you guys have to understand, I give you a little scripture earlier. I give you another one in Ecclesiastes. It talks about there's a time. Ecclesiastes, what is it? 3? There's a season, there's a time for everything. Well, in 2025, there's a time to stand up and demand what you deserve. And as this placard is saying, we deserve respect. That is so true. All the people of Guyana, regardless of their political affiliation, regardless of their religion, regardless of whatever, their ethnicity, whatever, they deserve better. All of Guyana deserve better. And it starts with a quality, a good quality of life. We're not seeing that right now at all. Across the country, we're not seeing that. Look around in Georgetown. Look around in Bartica. Let them. Madia and those places. Look around in Linden. Whether Wisma, whether Mackenzie, wherever. Look around in Ituni. Look around in Kokwani, in New Amsterdam, on the Quarantine Coast. Little India, Little Africa out there in Corriverton. Blackbush Polder, Maybe Curie, Les Beholden. Look around. Look around in Port Moran. Shitanka. Look around in Bloomfield, Port Moran, Mississippi, Tain, Manchester, Alnis, Cromarty, Evesham, Epsom. Look around, guys. Look around. We can do better. And as this placard says, we deserve better. It takes me to the third question, President Granger. Where has the quality of life had its gravest and greatest impact?
Well, I would add to that question, if I may, by saying where the lowering of the quality of life had its greatest impact, because as you pointed out in your geographical lesson just now, in rural areas, I think people have been hard hit because that is a zone, coastal rural areas, the villages, I think life is very difficult still, in terms of employment, in terms of uh, access to education, in terms of migration, because sometimes qualified people leave those villages, and there's maybe less leadership in those communities in terms of the RDC, and local government elections should have been bringing young people to the fore. So I would say rural coastland areas and hinterland areas have been hardest hit. I think that is where poverty has been, the major factor in lowering the quality of life. And I think the PPP administration has discovered that, if they want to get more votes, they carry in a few bags of goodies, without really planning long-term development. If they were really serious about infrastructure development, for example, they would build roads in the Rupununi Region 9, rail highways, not just, cemetery roads, but rail highways from Anai down to Wichabai, or to, Achibib. Uh, then you would see development. Then you would see people being able to deliver their produce to the markets. But we're not seeing that happen. So I would say that the hinterland generally has been hard hit, although the APNU administration established four capital towns at Bartica, Madia, uh, Lethem, and Mabaruma. I would say that there has not been a commensurate devolution of power to these municipalities. The municipalities are still controlled with an iron fist by the local government ministry, and you know what happened there, the Ministry of Local Government. Uh, some of the areas where indigenous people live have been, you can almost call it rape of virgin territories by reckless mining, the influx of migrants. All of these factors contribute to lowering of the quality of life. And I don't know if there's a safe place. Maybe people now building more gated communities. I suppose people can, whereas Guyana countryside used to be open, now there are more gated communities and people are living in these little enclaves. But uh, it is hard to find areas in which the mass of people, the common folk, have benefited from, from this petroleum bonanza, and are really enjoying a higher quality of life. People are sullen, people are angry, people are dissatisfied, you know, and there are good reasons why Guyana is 95th in terms of human development, because the development is not for people, the development is for infrastructure. We would like to see the time when, government stops abusing teachers and public servants and civil society and sits down to have civil conversation, cordial conversation with these people who are necessary for the development of the country. But, we are getting, unfortunately, used to these rants in which, press conferences just turn out to, sort of military offenses against the other side. We passed that stage now. We should be heading towards development. We should be heading towards a social contract where we sit down and have a civil conversation with all of these people. But right now we seem to be in election mode, and election mode calls for aggression, it calls for attacks, it calls for abuse, and I don't think it's very tiresome. It's very tiresome, that we cannot really have a civil conversation on the future of this country. If we don't have it, I mean, we've been independent, for over 58 years, and we just need to get out of this, hostile mentality, hostile relations with the opposition and with civil society, and start thinking about the long-term development of the country. I'm not seeing that. And I think both hinterland and coastland have been suffering. There has been some infrastructural change, but I don't think in terms of quality of life, people have much to boast about over the last 50 months.
And the people deserve better, regardless of what religion it is. It doesn't really matter. It's always in whether in the Quran, whether in the Bhagavad Gita, whether in the Bible. It talks about love and respect for humanity, love and respect for each other. As in the Quran, the emphasis is respect, peace, love, and compassion. And the same the Bible speaks of, the same the Bhagavad Gita speaks of, and they talk about this. But we expect those who are in office to treat the citizenry in the same way, with love, respect, with dignity. And that is all part ingredients of a good quality of life. And when that is absent, when that is missing, and when those who are in office are more concerned about how they can score political points with a little few handouts and a little projects instead of progress, then we're having problems. Then there is no positive results. There's no evidence to show that the people are enjoying a good quality of life. And that is why they say they deserve better. The teachers deserve better. The bauxite workers deserve better. All public servants deserve better. All Guyanese deserve better. And with an economy, oil-rich economy, so to speak, with billions and billions of dollars, and throwing a little piece of crumbs to people, a little 500 US dollars, a one-time, one-off, and call it generational wealth. It's an insult to the people of Guyana. I'm sorry, this evening it's like I'm off preaching. I just want to preach because the people deserve better. This takes me to our fourth question. Or is it our fourth question? Yes. Why has the low quality of life remained as a persistent problem, President Granger?
It is because there has not been any improvement in the quality of life for the people. And the government, whoever their advisors are, the government is pursuing a line of projects before people. And progress does not equate to project. It doesn't mean if you have 100 kilometers of roadways in Georgetown or Region 6 that life will be better. In fact, you have to look at the country in a holistic manner, and you have to think about the roads in Region 9, the roads in Region 8, the bridges across the Essequibo. We have to think of the roads in Region 7 and Region 1. And there has been really no change. We have to think about having somebody in charge of this problem of migration. You cannot have, a community which is larger than the native-born population of the Barima Waini without any sort of structure for the local government and to encourage them to produce food for themselves and to have farms instead of being mendicants and instead of getting involved in criminal activity. So we're not seeing that type of development planning. We see people who are hell bent on scoring points for the elections in 2025, and we're not seeing development. So I think it will remain a problem until the government, changes its policies and start thinking about people, not just giving them handouts, but on providing the essentials of education to get children to schools. The APNU had a very good policy. We provided both buses and bicycles and breakfast for children. And they laughed at it, and I don't know how children are getting to school now, but the whole idea was to improve attendance. There was a policy of employment. We set up the Guyana Youth Corps in 2018, and young people from all over the country, not political, youths, but people who were interested in learning skills, and they shut it down. We set up a public service training college to encourage young entrants into the Guyana public service to be better trained in order to administer these regions. They shut it down. We set up a department of citizenship. They shut it down. We set up a department of social cohesion. They shut it down. So the PPP is not only bent on undoing the work of APNU, it is bent on pursuing a program which has little to do with human development. Their program is based on contracts. Even the policy towards the environment, APNU introduced the strategy for the Green State Development Strategy. They just threw it out of the window. Okay, they're selling carbon credits. Yes, it's a good idea to get money. But right now, it doesn't matter that the environment is being destroyed in some places. As far as they're concerned, if they can get money from the other areas, that is good. It doesn't matter what happens there. Who's going to fill these holes in the ground? So the policy is quite, anti-people, but they feel that they can always buy off people, and outshout them. Why should our indigenous people have to go to the international human rights agencies for their rights? Why should we ignore the plight of the migrants? I mean, people shouldn't be living in those conditions. I mean, it's a large community, bigger than some villages. Settle them properly and let them produce food for themselves. But these things, they're not thinking about it. Anything that the APNU says is criticized. Anything the union says is criticized. Anything the Guyana Human Rights Association says is criticized. And like one man does the talking, one man does the thinking, and the result is that the quality of life of the majority continues to decline. That is what is happening.
Of course, that's what's happening. The people deserve better. The people got to stand up. They got to demand better from whomever the government is. And in this situation, there's not a good quality of life. There's no evidence. It's just project, and the projects is basically based out on giving out a little contract to friends and cronies, and it's shabby works. That's another issue, but it's more to score political points than to see any progress throughout the country. And I agree with this here. They deserve better. The people deserve better, whether it's the teachers or whomever. They deserve better. All right, as we look at the time here and we look at the conditions, the PPP administration imposes harsh policy that impairs villagers' quality of life. There's no evidence. They just don't believe in quality of life. You said it's like one of them do the speaking and the other one does the thinking. I disagree slightly because it shows that they just talk, and nobody's really doing any thinking. No one as to the future of the country. It's probably thinking as to how they're going to make a next deal from another political project. All right, takes where are we? Is it our fifth question, second to last question for tonight? If you've just joined us, good night and welcome to Anansi Web Education with President David Arthur Granger. The fifth question: who are the victims who suffer from the effects of the low quality of life? We're talking now about the victims.
Well, it's the wretched of the earth, the poorest people. To use Panon's expression, the wretched of the earth, the poorest people are suffering the most. You do not see any rich people's houses being demolished. You see poor villagers' houses being demolished. You see people being hit on the street. People being shot to death by homeowners because the person is a vagrant or you might find himself in the wrong place. But death, you can't give a private citizen the authority to kill others simply because they consider they perform some little breach, like sleeping outside of a rich man's house. It's, if it wasn't so serious, it would be comical. And I would say that the people who suffer most are the poorest people because to him that hath, you've been quoting the Bible all night. To him that hath, well, more shall be added, but and to him that hath not, even a little that he had shall be taken away. That's what seemed to be happening. It is a sort of, you know, manifestation of some biblical prophecy that, the poor get poorer and the rich get richer. But what is happening is the society is being torn apart. And even in our primary schools, some of the poorest students go to the poorest schools, and they end up either dropping out or not completing their education. When you look at something like education, you have not got more than the smallest percentage of students from the hinterland, qualifying for the top schools. Some of them at the national grade 6 level, they fail everything and all of the subjects, and even with all of the effort that they're putting into education, we cannot get satisfactory grades in the two most important subjects, that is mathematics and English language. But it's the poor people in the hinterland who suffer, poor people in the coastland who suffer. But other children who are rich and who got good transportation and books at home and computers, they seem to get by and they're well looked after. They go to the best schools, and the poor people go to the worst schools. We should not have this. I don't like to use the word, but it's a fact. We should not have education apartheid in this country, where we know that the poorest children go to bad schools and rich children go to good schools. We need to have an education system which provides for equality, coastland and hinterland, and for all classes, all ethnic groups. But it's not happening. We know that the poor are getting poorer and the rich are getting richer. Those with rich families are getting the better education, and those who cannot afford it will get the worse education. Not that education is not free, but it needs to be supported by other facilities like good transportation, good meals, good books, and good facilities, sporting facilities, and so on in this country. But it is not happening. The poor are suffering most in this country, and that is the tragedy. When people come to explain the quality of life, in fact, I know one newspaper talks about the cost of living. Perhaps after this series is finished, I should ask people what they think of the quality of life. Are they happy? And I suppose you'll get the same types of answers. No, I'm not happy because, my son dropped out of school, or he was arrested by the police, or my daughter was, trafficked in the hinterland, something. But the quality of life is not getting better for the majority of people.
It's certainly not getting any better for lots of people. It's just not getting any better at all. Something has got to happen to change that and turn the tide around to make it better for all Guyanese.
Oh, Jesus Christ, if cost of living double, I don't know what happened. A pound of sugar is $300 already. Flour, everything gone up. Everything just raising. You gotta get about $40,000 for buy good ration. You gotta get 3 man now. A weekend man, a monthly man, and
cost of living gone up, and throughout the country, people are feeling this way. This is how they're feeling, and we've got to change that. This is how they're feeling, President Granger.
I can't take it no more. I can't take it no more. Can't take it no more. Imagine 18 hours of blackout, and you're telling people progress. Cost of living gone up 100%, yet you give public servant less. Mr. President, listen to the people. Search your soul and you will confess. I want you try surviving on the public base, then you're gonna know but stress. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up, you're hiding.
People fed up. People fed up. Why are they fed up? Because they deserve better. All right, our final question for tonight, President Granger, as we deal with the quality of life. Final question is, how has the low quality of life influenced international perceptions of Guyana?
Well, you can look at the answer to this question at various levels. One is at the so-called macro level. Um, you've heard me speak about the reports of the United States Department of State about human rights violations and about child labor. And clearly, there is no reason for optimism. You've read the United Nations Human Development Report, you've heard about it, and it has placed Guyana 95th. This is behind half of the CARICOM states, like Barbados and the Bahamas and Antigua, St. Kitts, Nevis. When a country is placed 95th, that is a good index, a good indicator of how the international community sees the country. And these, for want of a better expression, these are as close to factual assessments as you can get. Because it is not something lightly arrived at. They measure a lot of criteria, and this is what the rest of the world thinks about us. We are a petroleum state. We're boasting about billions of dollars in revenue, but they know that there's rampant crime in the hinterland. There's trafficking in persons. They know that there is a heavy dropout rate at the education system, and that our children, even at age 10 or 11, are not qualifying. They know that the environment, is being degraded, coastal zone and the areas that are exploited by mines. They know that a lot of our young people are fleeing the country. They know that the country is not food secure, that, people are not buying mangoes and sapodillas and star apples. They're buying apples and grapes. They know that human safety is still powerless. A lot of women are raped, every week. They know that murders take place. They know that public transportation is chaotic. They know all of these things. So many persons, many corporations, sometimes even if they invest in Ghana, they keep their families outside. Sometimes families are actually living in Trinidad. People prefer to fly to Trinidad every week to see their families rather than have them live here because they're afraid of burglary or choke and rob or traffic accidents or some other criminal activity. So it would be good. It would be good for the government to sit up and take notice of the quality of life. That is to say that we cannot be satisfied with being 95th when countries like, St. Kitts and Grenada and Bahamas are way ahead of us. We must do something about the standard of living and the quality of living and the cost of living of our people. And I do not think anybody in the administration is thinking about this. They hope that, they'll get away with the elections in 2025 and then, everything will subside. But they feel that what they're doing is the formula for elections. It is not the formula for the development of human beings. It's not the formula for the development of the people of this country. It's not the formula for engendering greater equality and a high quality of life. I don't see it, and I don't see the government, I don't hear the government talking about it. And the international community is not dumb. They invest in oil because they want profits. They invest in gold because they want profits, and it's not because they want to develop people. It's the government's job to develop the people. It's not for ExxonMobil to develop the people. It's not for the oil corporation, CNOC or other to develop the people. That's the government's job. But the international perception is that Guyana is still a very difficult country to live in, and it's not a country to bring their families and enjoy a good quality of life. From every respect, education, environment, transportation, food security, it is not a good place to be. And when a country is bringing 95th in terms of in terms of the quality of life, the administration needs to sit up and take notice. and start paying attention to the needs of the people, the needs of the teachers, the needs of the workers, the needs of public servants, the needs of ordinary poor Guyanese in the countryside and hinterland. It's not happening, and 2025 must mean a change an improvement in the quality of life of ordinary Guyanese.
Well said. 2025, an improvement of life for every Guyanese, and goes back to Ecclesiastes. There's a time, there's a season for everything. A time to be quiet and a time to speak up. A time not to fight back for what is right. Fight back meaning that you stand up and you go on the mountaintops or wherever and you say you deserve better. The Bible speaks of that. The Bhagavad Gita speaks about fight back too. Fight back. That physical fight we're talking about, fight back. The Quran speaks about that. Fight back, stand up. You deserve better, guys. All of you deserve better. You do not need to live in a country where the government condones violence, and especially violence against school children, stoning of school buses, injuring school children, and all manner of things. It's time that we move away from that because, as this placard says, we deserve better, a better quality of life. We're not seeing that under this regime. We're not seeing that. It has been absent. And it's time that you stand up because all of you, regardless of your religion, your ethnic persuasion, regardless of your political leanings, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's time that you stand up and demand what is right. And what is right for all of you is a good quality of life. We're not seeing that. President Granger, thank you so much as always. And to all of our listeners, we thank all of you. And it's the beginning of 2025. We want the best for every single Guyanese, every single one. Closing remarks, please, as it's 2025. What are your plans?
Well, it's traditional. Well, my plans are secondary right now. I do hope that we will continue to work for the improvement of the quality of life of the Guyanese people. I hope that 2025 will be happier and that the PPP administration would be more woke, would awake to its responsibilities and pay attention to, developing people. The projects have been very impressive, but now we need to move Ghana from being 95th in terms of quality of life and the Human Development Index to maybe the 5th or 15th. But right now, things are not doing well and we should not be satisfied. 2025 must give us hope and must ensure that Guyanese get a good life. That is what we promised in 2015. 10 years later, we must ensure that Guyanese get a good life. Every Guyanese deserves a good life. Thank you. May God bless you. May we all have a happy and prosperous 2025 with a high quality of life.
Thank you. High quality of life can only be done with people who understand what high quality of life means. And instead of political projects, people need progress throughout the country, regardless of where you are, whether in Sophia, whether around Camp Street area, Ben Street and those places. People deserve better. President Granger, thank you so much as always. And to our listeners, thank you all. Have a great rest of the night. And God bless you. You deserve better. Better and a higher quality.
Thank you and good night to you and your viewers. And Happy New Year.
Sun not go down but up the river. Some washing clothes, some folks are bathing at the water. Fishermen, they catch them a bring. From a canoe boat, man, them start offloading. Aymara, Kwakwari, Gale Baka Kuma Kuma, even Lokonani. Aymara, Kwakwari, Gale Baka Kuma Kuma, even Banga Mary. Listen to this sweet story that tell the people about life in the country. Them children glad when the weed